hello, you guys. Welcome to our sassy little Saturdays. I'm hoping that we can make this like a regular thing on Saturdays with our favorite ex-Mormon, Larene. How are you doing, our favorite little
Hi.
ex-Mormon, Larene? How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm so good. I was just complimenting you. You have gotten so fit. Your shoulders and your arms are so defined right now, and you look so good. And so I just want to take a moment to just congratulate you because it's hard work and you have been so consistent in making yourself a priority and working on yourself. And I just want to take time to celebrate you right now because you look so good and you look happy. And
Thank
it's not
you.
church, is it?
No, it's a lot of hard work. And I have to thank you for where I'm at because I have tried so many times to exercise and work out and get myself in shape. And every time I fail. And I have been with your program for like a year and a half now since you started it. And it's just made a world of difference for me.
I love that. And that's why I'm glad I get to do this because when I started, in the Western world, we think about weight loss, our moms doing the jazzercise classes, it's all about punishment and vanity. And, you know, after being in India, it took me a long time in my late 20s and early 30s to really change my way of thinking about exercise where no, this is my time with God. This is my time to burn my karma. It's got nothing to do with the numbers on the scales. It's got nothing to do with the body is going to change anyway. And I think when you change that perspective of what you're actually, you
Mhm.
could do the same activity, but changing the perspective is what keeps the consistency. I've had more God moments on my yoga mat at 3 o'clock in the morning with Arnold or Albert Einstein hair and my yoga pants on backwards. Like, not, that is where I've met God the most in my struggle.
Or in the shower right after, funny enough, like as I'm showering and the water is coming over me, it's like I get the baptism of fire and I get the baptism of water every
It's
day. Well,
it's
most
so
days.
most days, and you are taking your spirituality into your own hands.
Mhm.
And the real Jesus, the real guy that was really cool, the real Yahshua kind of said that, like, it's in you. And so we create that friction and we see ourselves at our most vulnerable when we feel broken and we're sweaty and we look gross. And that's when we feel like we just can't anymore, but we keep going anyway. And then you can see it on people's bodies and faces when I always say the more your heart breaks, the more the light can shine through. The more and when you're in that exercise, the breakdown of the body is not when the healing is happening. That's total chaos and destruction. The healing happens right after when your body's rebuilding itself. And that's when that light, you've broken everything down physically and energetically, and the light can shine through. And the more you face your own, the more compassion you have for other people, the more you start to recognize we're all just human beings and we're all just figuring out, no one has all the answers. And that's kind of the fun of it. What fun would this
Yeah.
be if we had all the answers?
Absolutely. Well, and Mormons have all the answers. That's that's the thing. Like they get their people in by telling them they know everything. They have all the answers for you. And so it's easy. And so I was telling you just a little bit ago I met with Tamara last night who I absolutely love. She's amazing. And we were discussing I just lost it. I was thinking about how amazing she was and the thought went right out of my head. So I'll come back to that.
Well, yeah. Well, before we get into it, I want to give a couple disclaimers. You guys, I have had some fraud. Again, a lot of people have this happen. There are people using my name, Esoteric Atlanta, and my picture, and they're opening up fake Rumble accounts. And they are going around. I know you got a comment. They're going around and telling people to like follow them on Light and Love at the Esoteric Atlanta on Telegram. First of all, I would never say light and love to you because to me that's satanic. And true spirituality is that we're not into toxic positivity over here. We face the darkness here. And second of all, I'm not on Telegram at all. I don't do I have so many platforms I work. I don't have time to do a Telegram channel too. So I'm not on Telegram. Now I want to show you guys if you get contacted by see there's no videos. This is a fake account. They joined on August 21st, 2026. So they joined a few days ago. under my name. So this is fraud. I have contacted Rumble Legal to get them to take it down. Just be cautious. I will never message you on or respond to a comment and try to get you to like text me or call me. I usually try to be pretty personal when I respond. So just be very, very aware of fraudsters out there, not just with me, but with other channels as well. I know Catherine Edwards has dealt with it. I'm never going to ask you straight up for money. I'll promote businesses, but I'm never going to ask you for money ever. And again, I'm not on Telegram. And so if anybody's trying to herd you into like a Telegram account, that is not me. So just be very, very careful. Unfortunately, if you do give your money to a fraudster, I can't get it back for you because it's not me. But you Rumble Legal has been notified. They do have the Take It Down Act, which means if somebody is using your picture without your permission, they legally have to take it down, and they're using my picture without my permission. So with that being said, just be super, super careful. I know, Larene, you text me that you had gotten a response too, and you knew it was fake because you and I just text each other. Like, why would I, like, so just be very careful, you guys, with fraudsters, and just keep your street smarts about you. Now, before though, Larene, before we hand the mic over to you, I wanted to go through a quick disclaimer as well. So yes, I know I'm gonna hopefully get it. It's happened before, people just do that and they try to rip you off. And but with Rumble, hopefully Rumble will be easier to work with than YouTube. So and I think I know who it is. I did actually change our Monday live. I'm gonna bump back the Monday mystery, and Todd and I are actually gonna talk about this because we think we know who's doing it. So we're gonna actually do a whole show about it just so that you guys are educated and aware and you know what's happening. So but with that being said, Larene, every time we talk about religion, we know it's going to get spicy in the comment section, don't we?
Absolutely, and I'm here for it. A lot of the Exmo channels out there talk about the Mormon history and just very surface layer things. And we need to discuss a lot more than that. It goes very, very deep.
Yeah, because this is so let's just go through a disclaimer here quickly, you guys. In this episode, Larene and I will be looking at the LDS Church from a critical perspective. We are not here to tell you what to believe. We are here to question the evidence, examine the claims, and look at the facts. Hold on one second. Here. Okay. Whoops. Questioning is not attacking. We are examining historical claims, teaching evidence, and sources. You are free to disagree with us. We are not asking you to abandon your faith, only to be willing to examine the evidence. If your feelings cannot handle looking at uncomfortable information about your beliefs, you may want to skip this episode and come back when you are ready. Discomfort does not make a fact untrue. True things can stand up to questioning. If something is true, asking difficult questions does not make it false. Lies cannot stand up to scrutiny. We welcome thoughtful disagreement. Voices of dissent are valuable. Challenging ideas, questioning institutions, and presenting opposing evidence are part of a free society. Disagreement is welcome. Abuse, harassment, gaslighting, threats, bullying, personal attacks, any abusive behavior or attempts to intimidate or silence dissent will be blocked immediately. A free society must allow people to question and criticize institutions. If you cannot criticize something, question it, or examine its claims without being silenced, are you truly free? Question everything, including us. All right, is there anything you want to add to that, Larene, before we get into it?
No, I think that covers it.
Yeah.
I mean,
So,
I love the Mormon people. Personally, I have been talking online a lot and been talking a lot of crap because I found out a lot. And I feel like my family needs to know. And I went to them originally and it did not go well. And now I know how to go about things with people that I know personally. But I have to get this out there. People need to know. So I'm hoping that they will find this one day and actually listen to what I have to say, hopefully.
and I'm going to say too, for those of you in the audience who are not Mormon, I'm going to be made very, very clear. I was never Mormon. I've never been a Mormon. I'm just really I'm just really nosy. That's just what I am. I'm just nosy. And I just and just want to know. I just want to know everything. So I'm not a Mormon, and Lorena and I've talked about this before. I think that both of us bring a different perspective because there are going to be things that any ex-Mormon or active Mormon is going to know that someone like me is never going to understand because I've never even been into an LDS church before. Right. So the closest thing to an LDS church I've been to is the Book of Mormon on Broadway. So, so which is a fabulous show, by the way.
It
Maybe
is. It is.
that for a second because there's some things that Todd questioned about the Book of Mormon. I was like, no, that's absolutely true. So, but then with Larene, as somebody I think sometimes it's easier for someone on the outside to see patterns from a distance than someone from the inside can see. So I think that's really helpful to have two different eyes at the same thing. And I also want to say for everybody watching this right now, what we're going to talk about with the Mormon faith, there's a lot of consistency with what we see going on in the bigger picture of the world. So even if you were never Mormon, maybe you're just someone nosy like me. This information Lorraine is going to share is going to help you see other things, be a pattern. I'm trying to watch my words for YouTube, but other patterns in the greater establishment. And we are going to talk more backstage. We talked about this about Tyler Boyler and TPUSA and the Mormon stuff. And I think it's really important to understand because I have said before that Charlie Kirk, being a very staunch mainstream Christian, and then having Tyler there, they're not compatible belief systems. And so I'm very confused as to how he got so close to Charlie, which Charlie would have known that with the amount of academia that he was studying. So let's though start something kind of fun, Lorraine, because I told you I was cutting music from the Book of Mormon the musical, which is one of the best. It's so funny. And there's this song, I believe, and they did it at the Tony Awards. You can go. Unfortunately, I can't play it on YouTube, but he goes through things in the song that seem wild. And I was cutting that song for an opening over on Rumble, and so Todd, who's not into musical theater, my partner, heard this song playing over and over again because I was cutting it. And every time they said in 1978, is it 1978 God changed his mind about black people? Todd
Yeah.
started tripping. And he was like, why are they saying that? I was like, because it's true. And he was like, no. I was like, yes, Todd. Everything he says in this song, I'm going to have my own planet one day. God lives on a planet called Kolob. It's funny because it's true. So can we start there for a second, Lorraine? So
Yeah.
1978, let's talk about black people for 1 second. We
I was
love
gonna
we
say God on Kolob or the black people.
let's just talk about let's just unpack this song. If you guys have not seen it, you can type in Tony Awards Book of Mormon, I believe, because they did two. They did the opening number and they also did the I believe. It's hysterical. So what's going on with black people? Let's talk about that first.
Yes, they were not allowed to hold the priesthood or go to the temple and do the temple ordinances that all other members could do because they are not as worthy. They are not seen. So they were actually given a curse of black skin in the
So this is something
preexistence
that
because they were
not us. Larene and I do not believe
correct.
this. I want to make that very clear,
Correct.
guys.
It is a very racist belief, and it stems from Joseph Smith and Brigham Young and the 1800s, where it was a very racist country. And they really pushed that agenda of
White and delightsome.
blacks being less valiant. And that's why they got the curse of black skin before they came to Earth. And that was something that really bothered me because we've talked about it. I have this thing called vitiligo. And so my skin turns white. And so if God is willing to take a whole race of people and then give me something that changes my skin color, what does that say about me? Because he's not even willing to address it. So that was one of my first schisms at a very young age when I started getting this. Like,
Mhm.
your color of your skin does not make you worthy or not worthy, period.
No, at all. It has nothing to do with, yeah. And that's one thing I will say, and different people from different denominations of mainstream church can always, I would appreciate you hyping in too. But growing up in my Presbyterian church, I never heard any mention of race besides like, the obviously the Jewish connection because of the Old Testament. That was the only discussion. Like I never heard any discussion of like black people, white people, Asians at all. But this is we I know because I've read the Book of Mormon, the white and delightsome thing. And so anyway, that is true that in 1978, apparently God changed his mind. I didn't know God did that, but apparently God changed his mind. So what happened in 1978?
God changed his mind. They claimed that it was God. God said, "Okay, we're going to let the blacks have the priesthood now," and so they were able to finally go to the temple and get sealed in the temple, which is the pinnacle of the Mormon religion. You have to go through the temple and get sealed to your husband for time and all eternity, so that you can be sealed with your children, and then you can get, you have to have up to 3 wives. Is what the old beliefs used to say. Now they're kind of veering away from that thought and they're trying to be more mainstream Christian, but it doesn't work when you've been teaching this for so long.
Yeah, no, it does
200 years.
because it passes down in family lines, right? Like this information
Mm-hmm.
passes down. And all right, so yes, in 1978, and if you guys watch the Salt Lake City Housewives, they actually talk about this in one of their reunion shows because some of the cast members have left the church and they do talk about, they bring it up. It's quickly squashed, but they do bring up about how racist the original church was. All right, so this is
Right.
fact that in 1978, God apparently God does that, changed his mind
And there's a
about.
lot of people that try to say that it was Joseph Smith was not racist, that it was all Brigham Young and they put it all on him. Either way, racist is racist and it's baked into the scriptures. They literally changed the scriptures for different languages. So in Africa, the church is booming right now. And it's the only place that it's booming. And that is because they changed the Book of Mormon when they translated it into whatever language they're translating it into. And there's episodes out there you can find. People have really dug into the different Book of Mormons that are out there, but they're different in different languages. And they're really changing it a lot, even though it's the most correct book that has never been changed. And it's just a whole big thing.
Well, they're just copying mainstream Christianity then with that one because the Bible's been changed multiple times too. So mainstream Christian, same. So so now let's talk about with that song Kolob. So and this gets into a belief that I find really fascinating. And once again, I'm going to say for those in the back who are new here or haven't heard, even though I'm comparing and contrasting mainstream Christianity to Mormonism, does not mean that I support mainstream Christianity. Lorene's been around for a while. I have gone hard at mainstream Christianity too. All right. But this one concept of God and who God is, I am going to take mainstream Christianity's side on this one because we were taught, we're around the same age. So, us, Bryce and Lorene, growing up, two girls in the 80s and 90s, growing up at our prospective churches, we're taught two totally different gods, like down to literally brass tack, like two totally different, like who God is. I was taught in mainstream Christianity that God is not human, that God is like God is consciousness, that God came into human body through Jesus, but God in his nature is like a consciousness. They didn't say consciousness, but that God's not human, right? What were you taught, Lorene?
I was taught that as man is, God once was, and as God is, man will become. So you are here on earth to earn your mortal body and to become like God. You are literally going to become a God one day. And they're trying to roll this one back also, but it's kind of hard to do when it again is baked into all of the teachings that all of the prophets have done for years.
Are they trying to roll it back because it clashes so much with mainstream Christianity? Is that why they're trying to
Yeah,
roll it back?
I think so. That's my opinion.
Yeah, because that's just not what when I first learned that in Mormonism, I was like, hold on, what? And it scares me because I'm like, I don't trust humans. So like, why am I praying to something that was once a human? Like, that's a little fucking scary. Like that's not like I don't want my God to be something that can fuck up like I can. Like I want it to be so now this
And we
gets
have heavenly parents too. So
yes.
that's a big piece of it. We have heavenly parents who love us and we love them. And they are the ones, even though we don't really talk about Heavenly Mother very much, we're only focused on Heavenly Father. And I was taught growing up that the reason we don't talk about Heavenly Mother is because she is so sacred. They didn't even give her a name because they don't want us to take it in vain, like we take God's name in vain.
Do you know what this means to me, Lorene? Like when when you're like a teenager and you're dating, or this never happened to me, but I've seen this on like movies and stuff, like where a guy starts dating the dorky girl, but he's like, but don't tell anybody, it's a secret, because he doesn't want.
Yes.
That's what kind of reminds me of. It's silly. Now, I will say in some of the missing books of the Bible, it does talk about Sophia, which would be like the feminine version of God, but it reads different. It's not that God is married to Sophia. It's like the intertwining of two energies of masculine and feminine. And some people translate the Holy Spirit as the Shekinah as being the feminine energy of God. So we do kind of see that in old school mainstream Christianity, but it's not mother and it's not parents. It's not like so now with the parents, do Mormons believe that they're like boinking in the sky and like Sky Daddy is sending down his babies?
Unless you're in the telestial kingdom, in which case you don't have the reproductive organs and you cannot. They call it the TK smoothie.
So when you go to heaven as a girl and you go to that kingdom, you don't get your period anymore?
Yeah.
Doesn't
Yeah,
sound
I'll take it.
like that doesn't sound that bad actually. So and we don't believe that and I say we, I'm not, but growing up, like that's not taught to us. Like we are children of God, but we're not actually like God and his wife aren't boinking and producing us in mainstream Christianity. Does that make sense? And
Yeah,
feel
no,
free.
they're creating spirit children in heaven to come down and populate the earth. And there's a whole oh, what is that movie called? There's a movie in the 80s about a kid who comes down and the family doesn't think that they should get another sibling, but then the parents feel like they should, and the other kids are jealous. Like it's a whole big movie production about they need to bring this one child back who is supposed to be with their family. And it makes a lot of members think of that and think that they need to have one more because there's one more kid who's waiting for them. You'll see, just like the Catholics, Mormons have big families. I have 7 siblings. They are full blood siblings because they believe that you need re- to populate and replenish the earth so that we can create more earths and do this all over.
Mormons too,
Can all
right?
have
Like
our own earths.
it's that quiverful that the fundamentalists like no, and like mainstream Christianity we don't we I have one sibling, one full-blooded sibling. I have step siblings, but we have smaller families. People do practice birth control in mostly in like mainstream. Now you do have fundamentalist Christians like the Duggars, where they practice like the quiverful. And and I know this might be, I might piss off people saying this, but I'm good at that. When I see families that believe that, like I feel like that's spousal abuse. Like if you're a woman and you spend your whole adult life pregnant, the amount of abuse that is to your body, I just
Mm-hmm.
don't think that's what God meant. Like I just don't think like I just don't think you're supposed to be a breeder. Like I don't,
No, I've
you
had
know,
2 and it like wrecked my body. Like I feel like my my youngest is 5 and I'm just now finally starting to feel myself again. I cannot imagine being perpetually pregnant for 20 years like my mom was basically.
this in the stress of being financially responsible for all those children. Like Todd and I were talking about like child rearing just the other day, and it's not just like we were talking about actually about weddings and about different weddings we've been to, and it's like that's why fathers of all girls stress out because they've got 4 weddings to pay for, like the cultural demands. I don't talk about braces. So I can't imagine like the stress that brings to a family when you feel like you have to have more mouths than you can feed and the pressure your religion is putting on you to do that. Whereas in the mainstream faith, I think we believe that if a child's supposed to be here, they'll be here. Um, like my mother growing up, my mother, I think I've told this story before. My mother's always been a big Republican, but she's also very like socially liberal. And she
Mm-hmm.
really believes in separation of church and state. And I remember when I was in like the 6th grade, we were out at lunch with a bunch of my little girlfriends and their moms, and they're all Republicans too. And they were talking about pro-choice, pro-life issues. And they were all pro-life, pro-life, pro-life. And my mom never said any. She just kind of kept her mouth shut. And that was weird to me, even in the 6th grade, because my mother's a social butterfly. And so we got in the car, and I asked my mom, why didn't you say anything? And my mom said, well, because I'm not pro-life. I'm pro-choice. And she sat in the car with my sister and me. My sister was even younger. And she said, listen, in our house, we believe that every child is deserving of life. But that's our religious beliefs. And we do have separation of church and state, and you and your sister are lucky because you have a family that if that happened to you unexpectedly, you have a family that will gather around you and help support you and would love that child. Your life isn't going to be interrupted as much as somebody else's. And because our belief system is that God brought the baby into the family, doesn't mean it needs to be pushed on somebody else's belief system. Right. And so I guess that sums up like kind of the more Protestant view of like child rearing, that they do practice birth control, but if a woman gets pregnant, it's like, oh, it's supposed to be her from God. Now, I want to make a disclaimer. This was back in the 90s, and now we know more about what's happening with like Planned Parenthood. So I'm sure my mother's opinion has shifted slightly with that. So this was back in the 90s, but I think that just kind of gives an example of like a mainstream, my mother's a mainstream Protestant, what their belief is around children. Does that make sense? You guys, let us know in the comment section. Like, she didn't set out to have a gazillion children. Now, my sister has
Right.
100 kids, but she just married an Italian Catholic, so that's her karma. So none of them were planned. They all just popped in. So
Part of
okay.
the problem is too is that you get the older kids who help take care because the parents are so exhausted from trying to keep up with everything that the older kids are put the task of raising some of the younger kids. And that can create a whole slew of problems that we are now finally coming to light. Like I was saying last time about like floodlit
Hmm.
that we're finding it's causing major issues.
Yeah, it's called parentification, I think, in actual psychiatry terms. They actually consider parentification a form of child abuse. When you put on the responsibility of an older sibling to raise a younger sibling when the older sibling hasn't even they're not even done with their childhood themselves. And so it is a huge problem. And that we see that also a lot with the fundamentalist Christians with the parentification. And so and that's not, hey, Dominic, hello, hello.
Grand
So
Rising.
I know.
I love
So
that.
I know. So, okay, so you guys believe that God, Father God and Mother God are up in heaven on a planet called Kolob, right? Like there's an actual
Hmm.
location.
Yep.
Heaven isn't some vague other, it's almost like in the mainstream church, it's taught that heaven is like some other dimension almost, right?
Hmm.
But you're
Yeah, no,
taught,
it's a planet.
yeah, that there's an actual planet out there in the solar system called Kolob that God and his wives, the plural, which we'll get to, are out there just having like a P. Diddy party, we'll say, and popping out spirit children. And that's where you want to get to. Now,
Yep.
question, Lorene, has anybody raised their hand in Sunday school or whatever and asked, like, why can't we just get in a spaceship and go to Kolob?
Not that I remember. Maybe that happened in seminary though. So seminary is something that happens for, well, me in Jackson County, which is also the Garden of Eden. We had seminary before school every day of the week. So Monday through Friday before we went to school, we went and got our indoctrination through the church. We had to go to the church building at 6 a.m. and we do a lesson every year of high school is a different book. So we do the Book of Mormon one year, we do the New Testament, the Old Testament, and the Pearl of Great Price, which is another book that
So much.
old Joe blessed us with.
So, y'all are so extra.
Yeah, it's so extra.
I'll
So,
accessorize. So, so that is brainwashing, right? Like going in every morning.
yeah,
We didn't do that in the Protestant churches, right? That's indoctrination. That's brainwashing. So
yep.
I would in that one be like, can't we just get on a spaceship and like go to Kolob? Like go talk to this God, this God and his wives. Now, one more question before we get into just the line of Mormonism that we got this question a lot. First of all, I want to, because one of our bullies last week was claiming that I had someone who wasn't an ex-Mormon that wasn't LDS on my channel. And Lorene, let's just clarify. You are like generational Mormon, right? Like you're not just a Mormon, like you're like a pioneer Mormon, right?
Unfortunately, yes, I do have pioneer stock in my family. My third great grandpa on my dad's side was Joseph Bates Noble. And you can learn a lot about him actually in the church history because he was one of Joseph's right hand men who helped one of his first marriages to Joseph, and he had a few wives himself. So right now we're seeing a lot of like polygamy deniers coming out and saying it didn't happen. Well, in my family history, it absolutely did, and I have polygamous ancestors.
If it didn't happen, well, we can get into Doctrine and Covenants. Like it's there. Yeah, even as a
Yeah.
non-Mormon, I know it's there. It's like in the rule
Mm-hmm.
book. It's right there. Okay, so Lorraine, for those who want to say because she's given truths about, she's literally like the church's worst nightmare because
I
she
received my baby blessing when I was a child, when I was a little baby, and then I got baptized when I was 8. I went through the beehives, Maya Maids, and Laurels when I was a young woman, which is actually a teenager, so a child.
is.
And I did baptisms for the dead once. Thank God I only did it once. I was like, I never want to do that again. I knew that I did not want to get married in the temple, whatever that was. It just was not for me.
Yeah, but you have like your ancestors are full on Mormon, and so for anybody who wants to doubt that, no, Lorraine is an active ex-Mormon. She was raised in this, and she's really smart, and she's been able to do the hard work. It's hard work. I get that. It's hard work deprogramming yourself and accepting some untruths that you were taught. But I will say on the opposite side of that, once you get through that, is liberation and freedom, and you realize
Absolutely.
some screwed up person that needs that you are perfectly and wonderfully created, and God is not through it. There's no like, middleman. There's no, God's here with you. And he's not sorry, Mormons, he's not a human being on a planet. He's not.
And he's not an asshole. Like,
No, he's
Mormon
not.
God is kind of an asshole who demands obedience over everything else. And that is not what God is really about.
Mm-mm. I say that about the God of the Bible too, so that maybe they have a little bit in common with mainstream church, but like this is not, this God's kind of cranky, like
I also went back in the day when we had 3 hour church. So now they're changing it again. I believe this year is when they're implementing some of the changes. But we went for 1 hour of sacrament meeting where the whole congregation is together. We take the sacrament, which is the blood and the water. And then we do where we break off into groups. So the men and the women meet separately. And then they have Sunday school where they all meet together. Women are Relief Society, men is the priesthood, and then the kids go to primary. Now they're changing it to where you do the hour of sacrament and you just do a quick 20-minute class of, well, they were trying to rotate it at first to where they were just doing priesthood 1 week, or I don't know exactly how it works because I'm out now, but I know that they broke it down to just be a couple of hours, and now they're breaking it down again to where it's like a couple hours, but you're still meeting every week in all of the classes.
Yeah, we just did 1 hour of church and Presbyterian. Listen,
Yeah, that's
listen.
a lot.
Southern churches are the funniest because if that preacher, we called it big church from like 11 to 12 on Sunday, and then you had Sunday school, but like 30 minutes beforehand, then you went to big church. And if that preacher man was going over that 12, the noon mark, all the men in the congregation would start looking at their watches and to the preacher to wrap it up because we got lunch reservations. So I think Protestantism wins on that one because they're like, no, bro, let's wrap it up. And scene, like we're done. So,
And technically, I'm still actually a member on the records. I have not removed my records. I have thought about it multiple times, and luckily, I didn't get either of my girls like blessed or baptized or anything. My oldest went a little bit, but technically, I'm still on the records because to get off of the records, it's a whole ordeal. You have to go get a notary and submit it to a certain place to make sure that you get removed appropriately. There's a whole website also called Quit Mormon that helps get all of that ironed out for you. So if you do want to get your name off the records, they make it a little bit easier.
and I will say for some people that might be a really big deal to do that. I could, especially if you've
Yeah.
gone through heavy abuse, but like, at the end of the day, what them having your name in their records really doesn't mean a whole lot. You have made the decision yourself to pull away, so I totally get that. All right, so there's one question I wanted to go in before I'm going to have you break down. We um we have we had somebody in the comment section, I forgot who's like, "Oh my God, I was raised Mormon and I didn't know that God had in Mormonism God had three or Jesus had three wives." They didn't know that. And then she said maybe they've stopped teaching that. And I actually looked it up. Like it was right there. It was Mary, Martha, and Mary Magdalene. It's
Yep.
in, so you can Google it. So let's clarify that real quickly, Lorene, for those. Let's talk about that. So you were taught that Jesus had three wives, correct?
Yes, and that is what you need to be able to make it to the highest level of heaven, is to have three wives. My mom actually, after my dad died, said, I hope he doesn't find one of his next wives before I get there. That was 20 years ago now. So he's probably already got the other two at least.
I mean, that's really stressful. Like as girls, we always like worry about our partners cheating here on earth. Now you got to worry about your partner cheating in the afterlife.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's wild.
That is some drama. Like, and poor gay guys. Like, can you imagine having three that you've now got? I don't know. I just we could talk about the LGBTQ and the LDS Church as well. But so I just wanted to clarify that yes, and it is possible. I'm going to say maybe Lorena, it's possible that they're pulling away from that more. I don't know because it is not. I mean, in the mainstream church, we're taught that Jesus was a virgin, like he didn't have any wives at all. Like it's a total opposite. Like he was pure of everything, which we know that he was actually married to Mary Magdalene. That's in the missing books of the Bible. And we actually, in one of the missing books, they ask him about the divorce and marriage, and he actually says the only relationship that's an abomination is polygamy.
Hmm.
He's that Jesus says that, and it's an abomination because it's
Yeah.
stripping the humanity from the women. It's a form of trafficking,
Yeah.
right? So he says an abomination. You should never have more. If you're going to divorce. He actually did have divorce back then, but you need to be with one person at a time because your wife is just as valuable as you are as a human being. Which was
Not in
like
Mormonism.
feminism, which was like groundbreaking back then because women were still like considered cattle back then. So the fact that he was saying that, he was like, no, it's an abomination. You do not have plural wives. That's disgusting. Don't do that. Your wife should love you as well. It should not be a business arrangement. So, all right. So now that we've covered that, is there anything else you want to cover before we really get into it, Lorraine? Anything you want to say before?
Now we can get into it. What would you like to talk about?
Should we start at the beginning? Like,
Which
how
part?
did Mormon start? Like, what was because I think Joseph Smith was like a fuck boy. Like, I'm like, his portraits, he's kind of hot. Like, he's kind of a hot cult leader. I would say, like, if women, and I give the women a lot of passes because back then in the early 1800s, women really didn't have a lot of legal standing. They just kind of had to follow their husbands, right? They just kind of had to do what their
Mm-hmm.
husbands said. But I would say if Joseph was around today, I think he could absolutely form a cult because I think women would be like, "You're hot," you know. Brigham Young was the polar opposite. But so let's start with that because I don't think a lot of mainstream Christians really understand. We know about Utah as being like the mecca of Mormonism. I don't know how many
Yes.
Christians really understand it started in upstate New York.
Yes, it started in Palmyra. Joseph Smith was a 14-year-old boy, and the way we were taught is that he went into the sacred grove and he went to go pray because there were all of these churches and he didn't know which one to join, and he wanted to know which one was true. So he went to the grove to pray, and two beings came down and said, Jesus and God, and said, join none of them. You're supposed to start your own. Well, later they have found that there are actually multiple versions of the first vision. So one of them says that it was just one being. Another one, I believe, says that it was Moroni. And so there's conflicting information there also. But what I was taught growing up and what they teach today is that two beings came and told Joseph Smith to start his own church. He wanted to that still Jesus Christ died for our sins. They still believe in that, and we have to repent for everything to make sure we can get back to him, which is the whole goal. The earth is only 6,000 years old is another one. So it started with Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. Eve was made from Adam's rib.
Same.
And
That's
in
the
the
same.
temple, that's the, yeah, that part is the same. But in the temple, they do a kind of a movie where you go and watch, and Satan hands you a little apron that you're supposed to put on. And this apron is very similar to some of the things that Joseph Smith learned in Masonic ties.
Mhm.
Well, up in upstate New York, Hiram also went to Dartmouth and taught Joseph a lot of the things that he was learning. There's a man named Samuel Spalding, who has a book that's very similar to the Book of Mormon. And so it's believed that a lot of these people were kind of learning the same things. And his brother Hiram came back and taught Joseph. So a lot of these stories that he was putting in the Book of Mormon probably came from Hiram and what he was learning at Dartmouth from the research that I've dug into.
Now, I've
But
heard this before
go ahead.
too. And so I've heard this before too, that there were different versions of the Book of Mormon already kind of floating around before Joseph.
Um,
Are stories kind of similar to before the Book of Mormon appeared? But I wanted to pause on something for a second that another thing that I don't think mainstream Christians really know anything about, and this is Moroni.
yeah,
Moroni is not an angel in mainstream Christianity. We have Michael, we have Gabriel, we have Raphael. Moroni, I didn't know who Moroni was when I first started studying. Is that shocking to the Mormons that the mainstreamers don't know who Moroni is? Or is that something
probably.
mainstreamers know is like a
Yeah,
whole
because he's the one who helped bring the plates to Joseph Smith and
angel,
helped
right?
guide him to where he needed to go to get them.
And he's an angel, correct?
Yes,
What would now was he now I can't remember. It's been a while since I've read the Book of Mormon. Was he once human? Was he Mormon or no? Was that am I confusing those two?
probably. I mean, just because everybody has to come down here and have a physical body before they can go back up.
Which is
Yeah,
different in mainstream Christianity. We don't believe or we they don't believe angels were ever human in mainstream Christianity. Isn't
interesting.
that interesting? Yeah, that's another difference. Now, what's interesting too, and I know I've heard the multiple there's multiple accounts of the first vision where he's in the woods.
Hmm.
And I want to give a historical background to people because you guys know I love history because history ain't nothing but gossip. Around this time in the early 1800s ish, first part of the 19th century, America itself, because Mormonism is a very American religion, right? Mormonism, or in America itself, we had just won the American Revolution, and there was a lot of flailing about when it came to religious matters because before then, most of where these colonists were coming from, there had been a religion ordained by the king or the queen. The monarchy ordained the religion. Well, now all of a sudden it's a free for all because we have this constitution that says you can believe whatever you want. And so we see historically that it's not just Joseph Smith. This is like a time when there's like a whole revival happening. And so there we see a couple of revivals throughout the 1800s, and so this is like the perfect storm. So we have this newfound country. We weren't supposed to win the revolution. We did. Oh shit, what do we do now? We're trying to figure out how we're going to do this. Like, now we've got, and we're moving outward west too. So the United States as it stands was very different in geography as it is now. So there's all this unknown about the land that we've inherited. We've got the Louisiana Purchase coming, which happened before, I believe, before Joseph was born, right at the beginning of the 1800s. So that expanded a lot of the West. We've already got the conversation around slavery popping up, where now that we're free, because before 1776, slavery was ordained by the British Crown because the colonists belonged to Great Britain. So now it's our responsibility. So we already see abolitionists, which is going to bring us to the Civil War in the 1860s. And so there's a lot, it's a shit show. Like it is the Hot Mess Express happening in the United States. I would love to be a fly on the wall because this is just the juicy kind of talk about a reality show. Like it's getting spicy because all of a sudden we're free and we don't even know what we're doing yet, right? We're
Right,
not the
right.
biggest country in the world yet. And so we have this revival. And so in that respects, because I believe Joseph Smith was a con man, I think he saw a really golden opportunity.
Literally, he was
He
already a treasure digger and
right.
looking for treasure with his neighbors, and said that he could see them with his seer stones and be able to find them with divinating rods.
Yeah, he was already like, and he was doing necromancy. We know that he was a
Hmm.
necromancer, which explains like the baptism for the dead. Now, Lorraine, something too that's very important that I don't even know if you picked up on, but I wanted to point it out because the second account of the first vision was there's Jesus and Father, God are standing there, right?
Hmm.
So this is where it starts to crash headfirst into mainstream Christianity, because mainstream Christians believe Father, Son, Holy Ghost are one, that God
And
and
we
Jesus.
believe that there are three different beings.
So ta-da,
Yeah.
ta-da. That's a big difference. That is a huge difference in
Hmm.
um in mainstream Christianity, that Father, Son, Holy Ghost, and that's true for Catholicism as well as Protestantism, that Jesus was God in flesh, that they were the same, that they're the same consciousness, right? Which I don't know. Don't ask me how that works. I don't know. I don't
They
really
might
believe.
not even know either, right?
I don't believe it. So here we go. So Scooter says Moroni per Google last prophet. He was, yeah, okay. It's been a while since I read the Book of Mormon. Was I only read it once. An ancient American prophet and the final writer of the Book of Mormon. Yes, so that's very
Mm,
different. I wanted,
thank
because
you.
I thought that, because we don't we the Protestants and Catholics don't believe that people become angels. The angels are different, and so that's already another clash with mainstream Christianity, is that a person could become an angel, right?
Well,
And
it's
again,
the latter day saints. We're
yeah,
we're saints. We're going to be sainted when we die. A lot of people in the lines are saints, literally.
Christians would argue, yep, absolutely. Criminals says, yeah, absolutely. That's a big thing for mainstream. That I think, and I don't even know if Lorene, you even noticed that, like how that first vision of being a person that's God and a person that's Jesus, you would have Christians in an uproar over that. In an uproar. Like that is, they're the same. The Trinity is one. And that's, so how do you think, so we know we have multiple first visions. So do you think, knowing that now, do you think Joseph started with the one to try to lure people in? Because otherwise they would have been like, you're smoking dope, and like ran away if he said they were too.
That's very possible. Yeah. The one of the prophets actually tore it out of the journal they found it in because they were like, this is not right. I'm going to just tear this out. And then they had to tape it back in later because
That
of
did happen.
people like Gerald and Sandra Tanner who went and were actually like looking in the documents and found this. I mean, it hasn't really been out in the open. It's not something I learned. I just learned the one. That's all that they teach. That's all that they push is just the one vision where there
Okay.
were two beings.
Yeah. Well, that just definitely sounds like Joseph has a marketing team.
Most members do not know that there are more than one. They keep a lot of this stuff hidden. Thank God for the internet.
Right.
And they're
Exactly.
starting to learn,
Right.
which will be their
Yes.
downfall.
Exactly. Absolutely, it will be. And that's when we said in the beginning, like you need to be able to question things. Like if something is true, if the LDS Church is true, if Mormonism is true, then it should be able to stand up to scrutiny.
Hmm.
I don't, I have problems with mainstream Christianity too, but mainstream Christianity doesn't force us, like, unless you're in like a fundamentalist sect, like just the Presbyterian church down the street is not going to like shame you for doing outside research at all. That's not, but the LDS is big on that, aren't they, Lorraine? They don't want you looking at outside sources, correct?
Right. They're not correct. You have to go to the church and go with their narrative. And they have it all lined out on their website. Everything that you could possibly think of, they have an answer for. They are the one true church and they know what's right. And that's where we get this support superiority complex of over everybody else because they are the one true church. They know everything.
The Mormon atheist. Hello.
I love it.
Um, yeah, I would push back and say, well, I would say to the elder, well, if what you have is true, then you won't mind if I go look at other sources, because the
And
truth is,
I think the name was J. Reuben Clark who said if it's true, then it can stand up to scrutiny. But if it's false, then it needs to be brought to light. And it is the most prized fraud out there.
oh, it is like, I mean, I think I'm partially obsessed with Mormonism because, in my opinion, it's so obviously false, but it's like it's hooked so many people. So it's like a study of human psychology. And I want to say too, I want to make it, I understand like people like Lorena are grandfathered into this faith. Like and it's no telling what happened to your ancestors along the way to get them hooked in. We know that they've changed the story. So I'm not saying like you're stupid. I'm not saying that at all. It's just fascinating to me how many people they can get to defend a very obvious lie. Like and it might be very obvious to me because again, I'm looking at it as an outsider, right? That's why it might be obvious to me, is because I'm an outsider and I'm seeing the conflicting messages from main. And again, I have over 1,000 videos on my channel. Most of them are me dogging the mainstream church too. I'm not saying this because I'm defending mainstream Christianity. However, between the two, if I had to pick one, like gun to my head, had to pick one, I'm gonna pick mainstream because they're way more like chill than the Mormon church. Like they're way more chill. So I'm like I said, if you're taking a longer than noon Sunday sermon, you're gonna get excused for lunch. Like it's way more chill. What about you, Larene? If you had to pick one, which one would you pick?
Oh, mainstream for sure. I got out of Mormonism as soon as I could.
Uh, I'm the full primary source guy. I post all time primary books. Oh, cool. Well, we will definitely let you
Yes.
guys go and make sure you check out The Mormon Atheist for sure. Great title. Kind of like Lorene's title, The Sacred Secret Society, kind of pulling on um, how y'all were raised. So, all right. So Joseph starts this religion. Allegedly finds these gold plates. He writes the Book of Mormon. We know that there was one woman who like burned it. What was her name again? She's my hero.
Lucy Harris. So Martin Harris's wife, he was, and you can find all of this out actually in South Park, the South Park Mormon episode. She her husband wanted to help fund this project that old Joe sold him on. And his wife was like, "Why are you giving this guy money? Like, this is a bunch of crock because he's putting his head in a hat and saying that he can see things in these rocks." And she's like, "This is a bunch of BS. Why don't you bring me the papers?" So there were 114 pages, I believe, that were given that he finally got Joseph to bring home. Martin let him bring it home to his wife to help convince her that this was true. So they were going to say that if he could she wanted to say that if he could go through and um, translate it correctly or the same as the original 114 pages, then we would know that it was true. And
She was smart.
so, yeah, she helped kind of stop the work for a little bit because then he took a break because he didn't know what to do. He didn't know if he should redo those pages or if he should start over. He ended up choosing to start over. I think ultimately he was afraid that if he translated it again and
Right.
anything was different, Lucy would be like, "No, this is what you said originally." So that is different.
I love her. I just love her. Like she was like, this is bullshit. He's putting his head in a hat. Like I love her. She's one of my favorite characters from the whole origin story of Mormonism because if you guys don't know, if you're not familiar, there was a whole it wasn't just Joseph Smith. There were like a couple of like benefactors and guys that were helping him spread it. And so just to kind of make a long story short, they end up heading out west. They're all in like Ohio, and they're kind of moving around what we call the Midwest.
Nauvoo,
Where
Illinois, and then they came down to Missouri.
and where was Joseph unalived? Where was he?
Carthage jail in Missouri. I believe
Yeah.
it's Liberty.
So he gets unalived.
Mhm.
Boo-hoo. The hot cult leader's dead. His wife Emma, his legal wife, he was already. We can get into the whole play. He was already practicing polygamy at that point. She and her son stay in the Midwest area, and then Brigham Young decides he's the next prophet, and he goes out to Utah, and that's majority of Mormons follow Brigham Young. Why did majority of Mormons follow Brigham Young instead of Joseph Smith's own son? Lorraine, what
That's a
happened?
good question because I believe that Joseph wanted it to be a bloodline church.
Mhm.
That's what he was trying to create. And that's why Emma and her son stayed back because they were saying, no, we should be the heirs of the church. Um, I don't know if Brigham Young knew more about what was going on in Utah and what's out there in the West, or what exactly made that happen, or like how they all started on the hand carts to go across the country. Some of it had to do with like the Mormon War,
Yeah.
and
A lot
uh,
of them weren't.
they were getting pushed out of the places that they were trying to come into.
And I've watched a lot of propaganda from the Mormon side of this issues of them being like kind of bullied, the Mormons being like bullied in these towns they were setting up. And the Mormon and the truth probably lies somewhere in the middle, like always. And yeah, it could have been that they believed kind of a strange thing and that scared people. That could be very true. But my question is, what were they doing in the town to cause people to hate them so much? Were they doing
They
things?
they were absolutely doing things. They were trying to get more wives, and they were taking even children. They Joseph Smith's his first wife was actually a child that they had taken into their home. Her name was Fanny Alger or Alger. I've heard it pronounced both ways. And one of Joseph Smith's main men found him in the barn with her, and she ended up being his first wife.
Yeah, he was grooming her. It was full on
Oh yeah,
pedophile. And
yeah.
I feel like people make that apologists make the excuse, well, it was a different time back then. He was in his 30s, she was a teenager. Well, that's simply not true, you guys. It's just not true. In the 1800s, there was already a lot of um I'm trying to watch my words for YouTube. There was a lot of dissent amongst older men marrying teenage girls. Now, yes, teenagers did get married back in those days, but to other teenagers, right? The
Right.
age difference was not what we think it is. Like I think it was the average woman at that time was 22, and the average man at that time was 24 when they got married. They were not. There were no 30-year-olds marrying 15-year. That was just not. That was there were laws around that not happening, but it was taboo. It wasn't considered. We're coming up. We're in the 1800s. We're coming up into the 1900s where it starts to become illegal. So we're already that evolution of understanding growth is already there. And so the fact that Joseph had a spiritual marriage to a child, and I
Yep.
feel like people sometimes, even to this day, look poorly on the girl, but we have to remember she was a child being groomed.
And she wasn't the only one. There were more
No,
than one teenager that he married. Multiple kids. And my mom would say the same thing all the time. Well, it was a different time back then. No, it
no, it wasn't.
wasn't. It wasn't. It was just as bad as it is today. No adult over 18 should be with anybody who is under 18, period. It's
No.
just not okay.
Most 16-year-olds who got married other 16-year-olds or 17, 18-year-olds, which is even though we don't allow that now, it's too young, but at least then that was age appropriate for them.
They
Right.
also use the excuse that men would go to war and then they would die. And so somebody had to take care of the wife and the children that were left behind. And so that is another reason that they claim that they had to do it.
Yeah, I like this. The Mormon atheist for orphan kids, this marriage was a life or death decision in a lot of cases. Yeah, we're taking away, I think sometimes we're taking away the reality of what was happening. Like I've told you, Lorraine, like even though we know that some of the pioneers were causing trouble in the town, and that's why a lot of the townspeople reacted the way they did. I'm not saying, they could have also thought they were weird. Like there's all sorts of stuff going on. There's lots of spinning wheels going on. But you do have to have some respect. Two things can be true, right? That the pioneers did go through a lot of hardship to make it out to Utah. And so if you are of a pioneer family, you come from strong stock. Like you can that they survived a lot. And I think that the Mormon atheist, that's a really good point. I think we overlook sometimes the severity of the situation. And so when we look at grooming, if your only option of surviving is entering into a spiritual marriage, or I don't even know if they called them spiritual marriages back then or just marriages. Because now
Some
it's
people claim they were spiritual and not really physical because
yeah,
they're trying to remove that sexual aspect of it.
guys, I don't care. Let's wake up here. Like, you really think that a guy like Mormon Smith, a guy like Joseph Smith, was just marrying people out of the goodness of his heart? Come on, come on, please. He was boinking them. I think that he was a predator. I think he was a schmexual predator. There's no way in hell. Like that's Delulu. If you think he was just the only woman he was being schmexual with was Emma, you're bullshitting yourself. He was a
Absolutely.
predator. And we know. So let's talk about the DC, the where we have it in record that he
Hmm.
and what happened with Emma? Like Emma fought back, didn't she?
Oh yeah, she was mad. She was because he was doing a lot of these in secret behind her back. She had no idea that this was happening. He started taking wives behind her back, and some of them were in the Relief Society with her. So they were friends of hers. And he tried to spin it that he was sealing them to the prophet so that they could have eternal life with him and be in the highest level of heaven with him. And it's just a bunch of BS to manipulate
It's
and
grooming.
coerce. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, she is in the scriptures. It's D&C, I believe, 120, I believe, is where a angel with a flaming sword came and told her that she must obey him.
Yeah. Or
It's
he'll be
horrific.
struck dead, right?
Yep.
So, and then we have it in, I pull it up here, you guys, on DNC 132, where it actually goes
Thank
into
you. Yes.
polygamy. And again, for those who are Mormons today and are having trouble with this, just Google it. Just Google it. It's right there. It says Doctrine and Covenants, section 132, is a text dictated by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints founder Joseph Smith in July of 1843. It outlines the theological foundation for eternal marriages and introduces the practice of plural marriage, polygamy, stating it was commanded by God for certain people. And so it's right there. And so when people join the church, when they get, so let's say Larene and I become a Mormon. Now you have like a big Bible that has like everything in it, right? So do most people carry it all in one book like that, or do they carry
Yeah.
separate books?
This I got when I was baptized. It was like the one big present I got as a child. And it's literally like the funnest part in here are the maps, where they try to say this is the way that, like, they went through Jerusalem, because basically the Book of Mormon is a story of the Jews, is what they
Yeah,
say. I
I
probably
forgot
shouldn't say
about
that.
that whole
Sorry.
thing. I meant to bring that up. Like what? Hold
So
on.
that's why they are so, like, in tight with that group of people, and why they are um, Zionists. Can I say that word?
Yeah, well, and we're all we're I was actually explaining this to Todd yesterday. We're in the car and we were talking about the whole I country, we'll say, and
Mhm.
why this is such a big deal because we were talking about turning point and like Charlie pulling away from the I country, the blue and white country, we'll say. And I was telling Todd, I was like, oh, it's like, oh yeah. I was like, well, this is the thing, Todd. I was like, because Todd, he grew up Methodist, but when he was 12, he's the youngest of three. So by the time he was 12, he was like, I don't want to go to church anymore. And I think his parents were just so exhausted. They're like, whatever. So there's a lot that he doesn't even know about mainstream belief. And I was telling him, I was like, oh, Todd, I was like, this is a big deal. I was like, even in mainstream Christianity, we're taught to venerate the I country and that the blue and white country, and that it's our responsibility to protect the blue and white country above our own selves because they're God's chosen people. And he was like, I didn't realize. I was like, no, I remember like that being spoken about in my church growing up. And I remember my parents talking about this. My mother has changed her stance big time. And I want to reiterate that if you are from the blue and white country and you're just an average person, we love you, we want you safe. We're talking about the government, right? And the M group, right?
Same with the Mormons. It's not the lay people. It's not the people who are actually running and doing the day-to-day work to keep the congregations together at your local ward level. It is
Yeah.
the tippy top in Salt Lake City that is pure evil, in my opinion.
Oh no, is my audio going in and out? They don't want me talking to, they don't like me.
Mm-mm. They don't like me either. It's okay. We're in a
It's
good club.
let me know though, if it gets bad, you guys, because yeah, let me know if it gets bad.
I didn't
So
notice it.
the we'll just say the blue and white country. So okay, so yes, the restoration of the blue and white country fulfills Mormon prophecy. Think Freemasonry, the twin pillars, America is a pillar, the blue and white country is the pillar of the East. Yeah, then this is big in the mainstream Christianity too. Now the difference is the Book of Mormon is one of the most exciting books, but also boring books at the same time. Like I was like, what the fuck is going on? I was like when I was reading it because I know I mispronounced a bunch of names in my head because I never heard these names before. So basically, it's this idea that these Jewish people hanging out in the blue and white area of the country all of a sudden go get a prophecy they got to get out. They go and like eek eek eek. They unalive slaughter to get like records and they like ho hum build a boat and they just go on.
Specifically, Nephi has to go into and slay Laban,
Yep.
who was the king who was drunk in the streets so that he could get the plates from him and protect them for heritage.
So Christ-like. So
Yeah.
they build this boat and they take a huge leap of faith and they get on this boat and they go across what we call the Atlantic Ocean and they wind up in this new like promised land, like where what they think is like Mexico they landed in originally, and
They go back and forth. They kind of make it obscure so that you can't really find the exact place. There is a place called Hill Cumorah where there was a major battle, and that was supposed to be the biggest one between the Nephites and the Lamanites. The Lamanites were the ones that were cursed with the dark skin. The Nephites were the good guys. Nephi, the one who had to, do that, was the good guy in the book.
so all right, I'll try to speak up a little bit because I just checked my volume mic and it looks like it's fine. So let me know if you guys are hearing me low, more people in the audience. But yeah. So they get on a boat, they come to America basically, and they over the generations they populate. So if you're a Native American, guess what? You're Jewish. According to the Mormons, you're Jewish. And we started speaking about racism. They go through this whole thing about the darker skinned being the bad guys and there you'll have to just read it for yourself, right?
If you can get through it. There is actually a fun one. They've changed the names, and there's a version. I don't know exactly who did it. I wish I could think of it, but he instead of it came to pass, which is in like every chapter and almost every verse, they say I shit you not. And they just change all of the wording and it's hilarious. So that's the way to read it if you want to read it.
You not. There's a great there's a podcast called My Book of Mormon, and I listened to it right after I had read it for myself because I read it for myself and I was like, what the fuck did I just read when I was done with it? And so I was looking for resources. This is before YouTube got really big. I was looking for resources and I found this podcast called My Book of Mormon. And it's this guy, I think if I remember correctly, he was like the son of a preacher. And so he decided, kind of like me, just for shits and giggles, let's just see what they believe. And he reads the whole Book of Mormon in the podcast, but he's making his own commentary the whole time. It is the funniest. It is the funniest because I was listening to him and he's saying out loud what I was thinking while I was reading it. As
Right.
a non-Mormon, as someone who's seeing this for the first time. So, yeah, Joseph was not very eloquent in his writing. He said it comes to pass. Like, find a new saying, bro. Like, he doesn't understand. He needed a thesaurus, basically, just to, Anyway, I shit you not. So now I will say though, just to back up again, going back to the beginning of the 1800s, this idea that the Native Americans were the lost tribes of the Jewish people was not strictly a Joseph Smith. This was a theory that was around everywhere, right? So reading that in a book of scripture would not have surprised people, like jolted them like it did me in the early 2000s, right? Because this was already a theory that was like roaming the streets, right? So I just
Yeah.
want to put that out because people might think, how could they believe that? Well, we didn't have DNA testing back then, right? And most people were of a Christian background, so they knew about these lost missing tribes, and this was an explanation, right, for where they went. So that was easy for Joseph to hook people in because this was already a theory that was around.
Right. There's 12 tribes of Israel, and those are like the 12 oxen, we were told, in the temple that the baptismal font sits on, are the 12 oxen. And we are considered tribes of Israel. So like when you go and you get for saying your patriarchal blessing when you're a teenager, you're told what tribe you're from. And they usually base it off of your genetic ancestry.
They love their genetics, don't they?
Oh, they
Yeah,
do.
we don't believe
Eugenics.
in the mainstream church unless you are Jewish. Like, correct, we don't believe we're Gentiles. Like we're Gentiles. And so that's that. I just wanted that's it's big. It's that. So the perspective of the blue and white country from both the Mormons and the mainstream Christian churches is to protect it, but for different reasons, it seems. Yeah. So anyway, so they go out west, they bring in polygamy, they they mosey on over to Utah. There's all these stuff that happens. They set up Utah as a more almost like a theocracy, correct, Larene?
Yes, yeah, Brigham Young. They wanted to name it the state of Deseret. He started a railroad company and a sugar company and was basically took over what was there. There is a really good book called Devil's Gate that goes over the Mormon Meadows Massacre.
Yes,
And they're finally starting to talk about that in the Mormon church, but that is not something I learned about growing up at all.
what is so let's and you said Devil's Gate the book because it looks like they made a movie out of it as
Mhm.
well.
They
Um,
did, yeah.
so what is the Meadows massacre for people who don't know? What happened?
So basically, they had a couple different pioneer treks that came through that came from Nauvoo, and one of the teams that left later in the year. I believe it was in August, and so they went through a lot of hardship through the winter trying to make it to Utah. A lot of lives were lost on the way. They were the Willie Handcart Company, I believe, and then they got to a certain point and there's conflicting information out there on who's really at fault. But it was basically a group of settlers that were slaughtered and completely taken out. All the kids up to, I believe, age 5 and younger, they let live, which was a mistake because then Mormon families took the kids and the family members from wherever they had aunts and uncles somewhere else. They were like, we want our kids back. But most of them were gone. Unfortunately, it was a big ordeal. But the Devil's Gate goes through like a lot of personal stories of journals that we have found since then. Because they made a couple treks out there and they were all harrowing from the historical record.
Yeah, it was pretty brutal, and these people were just kind of moving through, and they were attacked, and it was pretty. I mean, it was pretty brutal. They were going in and trying to gentrify, as we say now, even Native Americans, weren't they? Like taking in Native Americans into the fold,
To
magically
make
trying
them more white and delightsome.
exactly to get their skin to magically change colors.
Hmm.
So if you're a Mormon and don't understand that racism is literally a foundational part of your faith. And I'm not a woke person. Like I'm not someone that's gonna, neither is Larene. We're very level-headed, common sense people. But so when I say this, like hear me when I say it, foundationally, this religion is built on racism and it's built on sex trafficking through polygamy. And God's not a man. And you
Never
guys
was.
Never was. You guys call God Elohim, correct?
Yeah, there are multiple words they use, but Elohim is one, yes, which
And we now
means
know
multiple gods.
it means multiple gods. The translation we know now, it means multiple gods, which is what they were worshiping back in the Old Testament times, was many religions were the Elohim, the multiple gods. We look at the Sumerian text, whatever you want to think about that, whether that was extraterrestrial, whatever, it just means multiple. So how can one person be named something that means multiple gods? But we see a lot of this in Mormonism, don't we, Larene, where there's a mistranslation, a very obvious mistranslation from the 1800s, and for some reason it's not addressed. Let's talk about was the Book of Abraham. Can we talk about that for a second?
Yeah. Yeah, I was
We don't have the Book of Abraham, and when
we
I learned,
must be on the same wavelength because I was thinking the same thing.
yeah,
Before Joseph Smith got taken out, he had found a mummy and some papyri with this money or with this mummy, and he said he could translate the papyri that's in it. So one of the pieces was actually torn, and he filled in the blanks and decided that he was going to make it a, of somebody else, when it's actually the Book of the Dead, papyri.
It's a funeral,
That,
right? On how to bury.
yes,
It's an instruction manual.
exactly.
This, I was like record scratch. I was like, how? So if you have this book of Abraham and you have this story behind it, and obviously we question a lot of history now on this channel, but let's just go with what mainstream teaches us. When Napoleon went into Egypt, they took a lot of the stuff out and they sent it around the world. That's what they tell us. And so that's what we learned, or I learned, that Joseph Smith found this from these like cells of these Egyptian artifacts around the world. Big old thing. And if I were a Mormon, Larene, in modern times, and I had this book of Abraham, but then I learned that the actual original translation was no more than like a manual of how to do it to do a funeral, but this says something totally different. Like, how do people justify that? Then I think I would question, be like, well, then why is obviously the Book of Mormon? Then obviously everything Joseph Smith has translated is fake as fuck. So
There is a whole alphabet he created that he called Reformed Egyptian, and that is not it.
So how do people justify this? Because the Book of Abraham is still there, correct? Like, it's still used. But we
Yeah, and it's the story of Abraham, um, with his son,
this
basically taking him out.
um yep, it's fake. And so, but how do people, so how does that cognitive dissonance work? Like, when you learned that the Book of Abraham was literally the manual was, or the original text was a manual for, how did you feel, Lorraine, when you learned that it wasn't the story of Abraham?
That took me weeks to break down in my brain, honestly, because so on Mormon Stories podcast is where I learned about it. And he had a man named Robert Rittner who was an Egyptologist.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually trained the Egyptologists who were at BYU and who are spinning this narrative that it's still true. Like, he still had it right. They're still spinning it. It's just the whole cognitive dissonance and talking out of both sides of their mouths like they always do.
I mean, they even did that when DNA testing became a thing, and it proved that the Native Americans are not Jewish. They're
Yeah.
from Asia. So so now in the Book of Mormon it says they're not the descendants, some of them are.
Yeah.
Where are they? Because none of these people who've taken DNA tests who are Native Americans are Jewish. So where are these magical Jewish people that came over in a boat? So how do they convince people to stay? And it's crazy because in cults, Lorene, we see this all the time. The more the cult is proven to be false, the more people double down. It's weird. Humans are weird. We're weird, aren't we?
My family has definitely doubled down, at least some of them, from everything that I tried to bring out into the open. They just, I don't know what it is. It's just that programming that is so strong, and they get you from birth.
Yeah.
With songs like the Mormon atheist was talking about. I actually wrote down a bunch of songs here that we sang as a kid. Do As I'm Doing, Popcorn Popping on the Apricot Tree. I mean, that just solidifies some cognitive dissonance in your brain, because popcorn doesn't come from apricots. Come on. Everybody knows that, right?
And the Book of Mormon, or the Book of Abraham, did not come from that papyrus.
Papyri.
Oh.
Right. Exactly. There's a song that really gets me. It's The Wise Man and the Foolish Man. And it's a song about the wise man built his house upon a rock. The foolish man built his house upon the sand. And now I'm looking at all of this history and I'm like, the church is literally built on sand because they have lied for so long thinking they could get away with it.
So, damn, that brings back memories.
Oh, yeah. You want some more? We've got The Shoulder to the Wheel. Teach Me to Walk in the Light. Pioneer children were quick to obey. Choose the right way, or do what is right. Nephi's courage, a happy helper. When we're helping, we're happy, and we sing as we go. For we love to help Jesus because we all love him so. Like, these songs, I've been out for 20 years and I still know them. I will follow God's plan for me. I want to see the temple. That's a really big one. that gets you into really thinking that you have to go to the temple. I want to see the temple. We got the handcart song. We've got Follow the Prophet, which I really want to go through and like rename some of these songs because they still pop up in my head and change the wording to them so that I can sing them in a more fun way. Book of Mormon stories. That was a big one. And that's when you get arms and everything in it. I won't do that here.
Yeah,
Families can be together forever is a big one. Go ahead.
I think you and the Mormon atheists need to get together and y'all need to put on a recital, film it for us,
Yes.
so us non-Mormons can feel the full effect of these. Because I don't know any of these songs. We sing "Jesus loves you" and "Jesus loves the little children," and
Oh,
that's
no, no, no.
it.
No, that's not what they're trying to teach you. They say, quickly I'll obey. I'm trying to be like Jesus. I'm glad to pay a tithing. I will follow God's plan. Search, ponder, and pray. I have two little hands. And the second verse of the song, I literally wrote down because I was so bad. Kind Father, I thank you for two little hands and ask thee to bless them till each understands what children can only be happy all day when two little hands have learned how to obey.
They
There's
do
like,
Jesus kicked over the tables at the temple. Like Jesus didn't obey. Like, he didn't obey. Like that's why he got killed. Like he didn't obey. So it's kind of,
yeah,
and okay, I love that the Mormon atheist. I'm gonna have to check your channel out. He said, "Hell yeah, I can do it." Can we get in contact with you, the Mormon atheist? Because I think having both you and Larene together would be amazing if you would want to do a show. Can you email me at esotericatlanta@gmail.com? Larene, what's your email?
the Sacred Secret Society at proton.me.
That should be easy because that comes from
Yeah.
Mormonism, right? So that
Well,
is
we were always taught it was sacred. We couldn't know what happened in the temple until we went because it was sacred. And it's not sacred, it's secret.
let's talk about, oh my God, really? She's getting Book of Mormon ads just now. Hey, at least
Yes, you're getting some of my tithing money. I love it.
right. Yeah, they're wasting her tithing money. Let's talk about the temple for a second because we don't have temples in mainstream Christianity. But you guys in Mormonism, because y'all are extra, you're just extra. You have your like wards, which, from my understanding, for those who are not Mormon, a ward would be like your regular hometown church, like what we have, just regular. But that's where it stops at our regular hometown church. We don't go outside of it. And also, you guys get directed towards based on where you live, correct?
Yes, you have to go to your ward.
We
So,
don't
like,
have,
I grew up in Blue Springs, which is in Jackson County, Missouri, and we had, I think, four different wards, and they would split and they would combine and they would move the lines, the boundaries around some. But you have the ward on just the city level, and then you have the stake. So, you have the whole stake, which would be like the Kansas City stake, which
area.
is going over multiple cities in the area.
Mhm. So it's like an MLM, which is,
Yeah.
Utah's known for that. We don't have that. And you don't like I can go to as a Presbyterian, I could go to I grew up at the First Presbyterian Church, but like you can go to other Presbyterian, like there's no directing where you go.
No, when we went on vacation, we still had to go to church. We would find a ward in that area so that we could still go to church, and they would have the same lesson at every single ward. So they pass it out to everybody. They have the whole year planned out at the beginning of the year, and you're going through basically one of the books. Usually it's the Book of Mormon. They really push the Book of Mormon more than any other book.
It seems that way, like that the Bible is not as taken as seriously. It's so funny because I know the Mormons despise the Catholics. A lot of people despise the Catholics, so do the Protestants. But actually, Catholicism is more closer to Protestantism than Mormonism. But Mormons actually do a lot of things that the Catholics do as well.
Yeah.
Catholicism has the same mass everywhere. So Mormons, you guys talk such shit about the Catholics, and don't worry, they deserve it. Two things can be true though. You're doing a lot of the same things that the Catholics actually do as well.
Yep.
That's weird, isn't it? That's a little peculiar, isn't it?
And you can really start to see all of the how it all combined, like how similar they all are by watching other people's stories, like we were talking about with Mormon Stories podcast or Cults to Consciousness. She talks about all of the cults. They are pervasive. America, you could consider to be almost one. Like there's a girl who was in the army and
Yeah.
she was saying that they are. So It is literally baked into every part of the fabric of our country because the people who started the country were all Masons, and it all stems from the same evil octopus.
Yeah, it's just tentacles reaching out. And so we know Mormonism is a pillar of, again, guys, it's a pillar of Satanism.
Yeah,
Mormon, it is. So is the Scientology, so is Catholicism, so is Protestantism. These are all pillars. So is Freemasonry that hold up. I like how you describe it as an octopus that hold up this idea of a new world order. And you don't
hmm
have to be a conspiracy theorist to like see it for what it is,
they
right?
talk about it openly. They have to tell you what they're doing.
Right. And like I was telling you, Lorraine, I was like, why can't people just be cool? Like, just be cool, man. Like, just be cool. Like, we don't need a religion. Like, you just be cool. Like,
They think they are cool. That's the problem.
God, oh my God. They have the best plastic surgeons though. So, well, I wanted to talk about too a big thing, Lorraine. So in mainstream Christianity, we are taught that the only way to heaven is to believe in Jesus. That's it. Just believe in Jesus, that he died for
Oh
your
no.
sins. That's it. That Jesus' blood has anointed you, and that there's nothing you can do yourself to gain entrance into heaven. That's not
No,
the
you
same in Mormonism, correct?
no, you have to know certain handshakes to get into heaven. And you have to your husband has to know your new name as a woman so that they can bring you across the veil. It's a
This is
whole
so
thing.
stressful for somebody who is riddled with ADHD and OCD as myself. I would have made the most neurotic Mormon. Like this is so stressful. So it's not you don't believe
It
Mormons don't believe that
was.
Jesus alone gets you to heaven, correct?
Absolutely not. It takes a lot of work to get to heaven. And so I've shown this Masonic book before, and these are the handshakes that they do. And you can see that this is Mason. It's Masonry from the very beginning. And they call them, the handshakes are called Boaz, Jaquin, Tubal Cain, but they're mark of the Master Mason, mark of the most excellent master. Like it's all part of Masonry, which is satanic.
Yeah. Yeah. And so again with the theology, so let's kind of review from the beginning. Theology.
Mhm.
Um, Differences between mainstream Christianity and Mormonism. So Mormons believe God lives on a planet called Kolob, that he was once a human being named Elohim. Mainstream Christians don't believe that. Um, are not taught that. I think that's shocking for mainstream Christians to hear that. They believe that God has multiple wives that make spirit babies, correct? At least in the cartoon,
Mhm.
the God makers, I saw that. We need to get to the God makers. And then we've got that Jesus had three wives, which mainstream Christianity is taught that Jesus had no wives, that he was a virgin. We've got that in the old days, it was taught you needed three wives to get into heaven. We have polygamy from the Doctors and Covenant. We have that there. It's there. We have the Book of Abraham that they had that was actually not a Book of Abraham, but manuals on how to bury people. And then we have this idea that Mormons believe that they have to do their own works and do all these things, know these secret handshakes in order to get into heaven. Whereas mainstream Christians just believe that you have to believe in Jesus Christ, that there's nothing you yourself can do to get into heaven. So, with that being said, even though I don't agree with mainstream Christianity either, mainstream Christianity is way more laid back.
Yeah, because we didn't even get into the three levels of heaven.
Yeah,
There's
let's talk
actually,
about
it's
the
not just one, there's three. You have the celestial, the terrestrial, and the telestial.
which one's the one where you don't
And
have babies?
which one, what?
The one where you don't have babies, it's that second or third.
It's the third. Yeah.
Well, I'm shooting for the lowest common, the lowest hanging fruit. I don't want to have no
Yeah.
baby.
Yeah. And then they call hell perdition or outer darkness. Those are kind of interchangeable. But you have to, in order to get to the highest level, you have to do the baptism, the confirmation, the priesthood ordinances for the men, and then the temple ordinances for everyone. And so the plan of salvation is the great plan of happiness where you the plan includes the laws and ordinances of the gospel necessary for eternal life. And so as I was saying, the celestial is the highest, and that's like they consider it like the sun. And you receive the presence of the sun, but not the full or you must be sealed in the temple, with the spouse to make it. Some believe that you have 3 wives, where God and Jesus only can inherit. So you're going to be there with God and Jesus. In the terrestrial kingdom, which is the second one, is going to be like the moon. You receive the presence of the Son, but not of the fullness of the Father. Generally speaking, individuals in the terrestrial kingdom will be honorable people who were blinded by the craftiness of men, not valiant in the testimony of Jesus. I'm pulling all of this straight off of the church's website. And then the third one is the telestial, and receive not the gospel of Christ, neither the testimony of Jesus. These individuals will receive their glory after being redeemed from spirit prison. So that's the other piece. Like when you die, you either go to spirit prison or spirit paradise. And that's where you go to kind of wait before you're judged.
So someone like me who was never Mormon, who grew up Presbyterian, if I were to die tomorrow, I would go to spirit prison.
You're lucky because you didn't even know. You didn't even know about the gospel. So because you weren't taught it, you didn't have the chance. Well, I mean, we're just going to say you don't know anything about it.
I don't know anything. I know nothing.
You don't know anything at all. And so you die, you get the opportunity when somebody goes through the temple and does baptisms for the dead, for you to be able to approve or deny that you want to accept those blessings in heaven.
So I just got to sit and like wait.
Yeah.
Once I die, for somebody
like it's
12-year-old to be dunked in water for me.
It's much better for you than me, because since I had the fullness of the gospel and I knew all the truth that there is, and I left, I'm an apostate and I am going to perdition. I'm going to the outer darkness because I rejected it.
It's more fun. I want to go there.
Yeah.
I don't want to be saved by a 12-year-old. I actually think you had mentioned someone put in their will. I'm going to put that in mine. The Mormon church cannot baptize me after I'm dead. I say no, 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 no necromancy. No, stop it.
Right.
Yes, no. So in Mormonism, you have to continue to work. Freemasonry is also about continuing the work. No other religion does this. Jesus died for the work. Absolutely. It's finished when Jesus died in the Bible. Absolutely. That you summed it up perfectly in the Mormon Atheist. It's funny.
Yep.
The Mormon Atheist actually summed it up perfectly. And that is when we're talking about Charlie Kirk in TPUSA and Tyler Boyler. That's the conflict I'm talking about, is that Charlie Kirk was mainstream. So Charlie Kirk absolutely believed that Jesus died for the work. He died for the sins. It's finished. When Jesus died, it was finished. There's nothing you can do, which to me is way more chill than what the Mormons believe, right? That it's already done. Before you were even born, it was already done for you. So, and that is in the Bible, which is crazy, Larene, because a lot of what the Book of Mormon teaches even conflicts with the Bible, and the Bible is part of the faith. How do Mormons get around that? How do they do that?
Well, Joseph Smith's translation.
So Joseph Smith was like, "I'll do you one better, King James," because King James was also a Freemason and a masterful warlock, and he was a Satanist, and he was a PDF file. So actually, they're very. I wonder if he was the reincarnated King James. They're very similar, King James and old Joseph Smith. King James, his mother was beheaded and his son was beheaded. Joseph himself was ex-nayed. But I love that. Now you've heard it, you're screwed, LOL. If you find Mormonism after you've heard it, it's outer darkness for you. Be gone, outer darkness. Not according to Mormons, Jesus can't even save you from outer darkness, even though the Bible says he can. So that's wild. Yeah, so was a threat to, yes, CK was a threat to Mormon prophecy. He had to go. That's why we're kind of doing this, the Mormon atheist, because especially since the Candace Owen, like regardless of what you feel about Charlie Kirk, there's a lot there that we need to talk about. All right. Like there is a huge conspiracy. TPUSA has not been, somebody said this, listen, I agree. I forgot where I heard this. If we're coming up on the year anniversary of his unaliving, if TPUSA, after he had been unalived, just played it cool and said, Erica Kirk is going to be our new CEO, however, we're giving her a year to mourn, I don't think we would be sitting here questioning things.
Not as much as we are. I was questioning it from the beginning because of where it's at. UVU Utah, like you promise when you go through the temple, you make covenants, okay? And you make covenants to give everything. You consecrate everything, your time, your talents, your money to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And so everybody who is in on this that is Mormon
Mhm.
or LDS, because they don't like to use that word anymore, which is another song I just thought of. I Am a Mormon by Janine Brady. It was a song that I still get stuck in my head. So I am a Mormon.
Yeah,
Yeah, like,
that's some propaganda mind fuck bullshit, and we're not going to play that game here. I grew up, I had a classmate who was Mormon. She was the only Mormon, so she never talked about it, so I didn't learn anything from her. I absolutely, yeah, you're a Mormon. Like, it's the Book of Mormon.
right? Yeah. Yeah. And one of the prophets used to say Mormon means more good because Mon means good in a different language. So more is more good.
This is something interesting I want you guys to consider. Um, in Anton LaVey's Book of Satan, there is a demon named Mormon.
Mhm. I'm so glad you said that. Thank you. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, yeah. I'm fully convinced the church had something to do. There's something in Utah that happens without the, yeah, exactly. And I just, here's the thing with like Charlie Kirk and Turning Point. If it was, there two things can be true, right? You can be somebody who has a strong faith, but their organization can be simply political and separate from faith. And if that had been the case, then I could understand him partnering with different faiths in order to get more delegate to have, bigger pool. But Charlie was so, and the thing about Charlie, even though I disagreed with him on some things, he was very sincere in his belief in God. Like his belief in God didn't scare me because he seemed like a genuinely very kind person and not a threat. Like I didn't feel like his belief in the Bible was threatening to anybody. I think he genuinely loves God and he just identified with a religion and I think he more had a love for God. But it's very strange because the Mormon God and the Christian God, they're both a-holes. Yeah. And I don't think God's an a-hole either, but both gods are kind of a-holes. But let's just be real for real about that for a moment. Like, I beg your finest pardon. Like, what real God is going to ask for human sacrifice? Let's just be so for real for a moment. But nonetheless, they're both a-holes, but they're both very, very different. This is a very different belief system. And that's why there's a lot of debate going on whether Mormonism is actually a Christian faith. We've talked about this before, Larene. Like, is Mormonism truly a Christian faith because it's so different in its very foundational beliefs about God, about Jesus, about how to get to heaven. Like all these things are very, very different than what is in mainstream Christianity. And I don't know what the answer is. I don't know because I agree. I think, as we said, um, I absolutely believe this that Raven said all religions are designed to enslave humans. I absolutely believe that. And I have a very strong faith in God. Like I do believe in a God. But I don't believe in a God that my belief in God is that God lets us play our karma out basically. Right? He just lets us do our thing. Anyway, so he did not want to be hurt. Yeah. Yeah. And the way they set it up, it's the more has come out and we're gonna get a Greek demon, Mormo, a Greek demon. Do you know church? The word church, which comes from no, I'm loving this, the Mormon atheist. I really want you to read. I'm gonna check your channel out once we're done, and I really want you to contact us. Email
Yes,
me.
let's
Yeah, I
collab for sure.
you're putting a lot of really and you seem to be quite funny and we enjoy a good sense of humor because demons don't know how to laugh at themselves but we can and even church, so church comes from the Scottish word kirk, which surprisingly is Charlie's last name. I don't know if that's a coincidence, but then kirk, you have to look at the etymology of kirk, and that also comes from a Greek demon who would hypnotize people to feed off their souls. So all of these things are coming from demonology, which whether
Well,
you believe,
and on the table for CK, there were hats sitting right in front of him, 3 rows of hats, and they all had 47 on it. They say that's for, our current president. But if you add 7 and 4, it's 11, 33. What else does that stand for? The symbolism and turning point. there are a lot of symbolism in the stuff that they had that really makes you question after the fact, like what exactly did he know, or was it just things that other people put there for him and he had to go along with it?
From
We'll never know.
my opinion might change. It changes a lot. From what I've been researching with Charlie, what I've heard a lot of people say is that Charlie Kirk was really smart when it came to academics and politics, but he was book smart but street stupid.
Hmm.
He did not have a lot of street smarts. We all know people like that. And so a lot of things that might have been very obvious to us, where we would notice things, he might not have noticed.
Right.
Very naive, right? And
Hmm.
so the Mormon atheist quickly, I can't get into my Facebook right now, so I don't know what's even going on Facebook. But Larene, you're on
On
Facebook.
Facebook, I am. I'm Lawho, Lawho, and then Lars is my last name. I tried to do other things and turn it into like the Sacred Secret Society, and they wouldn't let me. So I
Yeah.
just made up a random
And you can always
name.
email me at my channel name, esotericatlanta@gmail.com. That's how you can get in touch with me too, because I can't, I'm on Facebook, but I don't even know what's going on my page right now because I can't get into it. So email's probably better for me. But yeah, I'd love to collaborate with you guys. And that's
I
kind
can
of
reach out to you too. Is your name the Mormon Atheist on Facebook? Because I can look for you too.
yeah. So I think that this is there anything else you want to cover today, Lorene, before we move into the next section of when we look at Turning Point? And
I think we covered most of it. Yeah, there's so much here. We could talk about it for hours.
there's a lot, you guys, and there's so many. Please make sure that you check out. I'm gonna just share Lorraine's channel again, because you're new to YouTube. Right when YouTube was starting to act super funny, we got a crazy email about what's gonna happen in January of 2027. So make sure you please, guys, go subscribe to Lorraine just to get her numbers up so that she falls into a more protected category. Let's get her to 1,000 subscribers just so she's protected on the on YouTube going into 2027. So we're gonna keep putting you out there, Lorraine, to get you to stay. Do you have a Rumble
Thank
yet? Or
you. Not yet. I'm working on that too.
no? Okay, so Rumble's little. I'm on Rumble as well. You guys know that I'm streaming to Rumble. Okay, cool. Yes, and Derek. Okay, so there you go, Lorraine.
Okay.
And cool. Yeah, because that's what we want to do, you guys. We started talking about the Merovingians and the Mormons, and I believe there is a lot of correlation between the Merovingians and the Mormons. I think there's a bigger, and this kind of gets into like turning point in the New World Order and all that kind of stuff with the Merovingians. They, the whole, as we spoke about last time before, we had to cut the stream short because they had to cut our power off. If you missed that live, I literally had a panic attack when Todd handed me the note. I like flashback to going to the principal's office, and he was like, Georgia Power is going to cut the power off because they were installing like a meter or something. So we had to cut that short. But this kind of feeds into it because, we've been taught that the Priory of Sion is like a conspiracy, but if it's real, it's protecting the bloodline of Jesus and Mary Magdalene. But if you look at Fritz Springmeier's work, it's a little darker than that. It might be more of the house of Satan. Um, that they're protecting. Take with that what you will. There's a
Or maybe
big
it's both and they're combining them. They're trying to do something with that. Because looking in my genealogy way back in the day, they combined a lot of different royalties. They started blending those families together in lots of really gross ways. But
yes.
Zion is everything to them. There are so many things regarding Zion. That's the whole point of the religion, is to reach Zion. And
And that is
yeah,
similar to mainstream Christianity, I will say. But mainstream Christianity is not trying to hail in the end of times. Whereas the Latter-day Saints, as we said in one episode, it's literally a death cult. Like it's in the title, Latter-day Saints. It's a death cult. And so it gets really crazy, you guys. And so I wanted to do this episode to really talk about like key things that Mormons believe that are not what's in mainstream Christianity, because I don't know if our audience, because most of our audience grew up mainstream, I don't think they know this. I didn't know this until I started studying Mormonism, and I was like, "You get the fuck out of here!" Like, what? I heard some guy I was listening to a while ago who is an ex-Mormon. He said it's almost like Mormonism is fan fiction, Christian fan fiction, right? It just takes
Yep.
it in a totally different direction. And so I wanted to go through that to help people also, maybe even some Mormons that are listening now, like there's a better, if you want to stay in a religion, like if you want to stay in a Christian religion, might I suggest just going to a Protestant church is way more laid back. It's
Yep.
way more laid back. You don't have to do anything extra. Like you just
No
got
pecking order.
a pecking order. You just listen. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Down here in the South, the church ladies are their own coven, legit. They have prayer circles. Don't you dare do something to get your name thrown in a prayer circle. That's how they gossip. They pray. They hold hands, dear baby Jesus, and they just talk shit about you to pray for you.
Hand, yeah, hand to the square. Prayer circles are big in the temple too.
Oh, really? It's just a gossip
Hmm.
circle. So, there's this really funny TikTok account where this guy goes and finds really old recipes from like the 50s, the 40s and 50s and recreates them. And there was one recipe he had taken from a church cookbook because we do like church cookbooks and stuff to raise money for the church. And he did this recipe, and there was one really odd ingredient that he added into it. And he kept saying that one ingredient like really did not, this recipe is disgusting. And if you look on the comment section, everybody's laughing their ass off. They're like, because the church ladies back then and still today, in my opinion, were petty bitches. If they had to turn in one of their, like if Betty Joe, let's say, was known for her chocolate chip cookies, and the church asked her, the pastor came and said, Betty Joe, can we have your chocolate chip cookies are so great? Can we have your recipe to put in the church cookbook to raise money for the church? What's Betty Joe going to do? She's got it. The pastor asked her. It's for Jesus. So Betty Joe is going to put one little extra ingredient in there so that when everyone tries to make those chocolate chip cookies, they're not going to taste as good as Betty Joe's, even though it's Betty Joe's recipe. They would do that.
Right.
It is the funniest. So at least in like Protestant churches in the South, you can get a kick out of it because they're petty and they're funny and they gossip and they pray for you. So it's just so funny. But anyway, I'm just checking the chat quickly about this. Yeah, I don't like church in general. But mega churches freak me out. Like the mega churches, like the Hill, they use what was it, Hillsdale Hillsong? What are they called? I covered it a long time ago. They use smoke machines to try to make people feel like God's present.
Well, it's kind of like the Catholics with their incense and stuff that they take down the aisles. What is actually in those? What are they actually doing? They have for the priesthood oil,
Yeah.
that olive oil that they consecrate to
Mhm.
give blessings. So, I mean,
Into the priesthood, like that's just some batshit wild to me. Like a 12-year-old boy is gonna have more authority over me at 43. Excuse me, no. Like
right. I've had two kids. You can go somewhere else.
you can fuck right all the way off. I beg your finest pardon. No, sir. No, sir.
Bless your
No,
little heart.
little heart. Down here in the South, no, sir. You say yes, ma'am to me. I'm your elder. So that is just
A
absolutely not.
patriarchy. It's
It's so funny.
important.
My sister is married to a Catholic, and my brother-in-law is the coolest guy. He's so cool. But they wanted his mom's from Italy. And so it was really important to them to raise the kids Catholic just because of Italian heritage. Trust me, my brother-in-law is not like he's not super religious. But my sister was like, I just there's things about Catholicism that I'm not super comfortable with, so I'm not gonna convert. And he was like, that's cool, that's cool. And my nephew, when he was like in Catholic preschool, got in trouble because he kept running by the Virgin Mary and not like praying. And so my sister got like called into the office to like, and my sister was like, well, I'm a Presbyterian and we don't do that shit at all. So blame it on me, but my child is not bowing to a statue outside at 2 years old. I'm sorry about that. He might have an Italian dad, but he's got a Protestant mama. So anyway, but and they also in Catholicism, kind of like Mormonism, your marriage isn't legit unless you're married in the Catholic Church, right?
Hmm.
And the marriages take forever. I've been to Catholic mass. They're a mass. It's a mass.
Yeah,
For instance, we get our services are 15 minutes to get married, and then you go party.
right.
So, and we can get married outside of the church. And so when my sister and Steven got married, they got married at an old plantation here, Barnsley Gardens here, and it's a resort now. And they got married. It was beautiful in the ruins, all that kind of stuff. And so by the Catholic Church standards, so it wasn't a marriage, even though they're legally married in the state of Georgia. So they made a compromise. They agreed that they would do the Protestant service because they don't acknowledge Protestant services, the big wedding with the friends and family and the party after. And then a few months later, they would go and just do their own little mass at the Catholic Church just to make Stephen's family happy. Well, they get married. My sister got pregnant like a month before her wedding, so all that was going on. They come back from their honeymoon, they're getting their house settled. Time goes by, and they get a call one day, and it was the priest, like, "Where are you?" Because they had totally forgotten the date of their Catholic marriage, and they missed it, and they just never rescheduled.
Oh,
So,
that's
by the
funny.
state of Georgia, like, legally they are married. My sister is now his last name. Like, they are legally married. But by the Catholic Church, they're just living in sin.
Yep, that sounds kind of like Mormonism, where you have to get married in the temple. They used to do it like if you got married outside of the temple first, if you wanted your family who can't go into the temple to be there and you wanted to get married outside, you had to wait a year before you could go through the temple with your spouse. It's
It's
wild.
that, so Mormons, like, I beg you, you think the Catholic Church is like the great beast or whatever? Look at how similar you are to Catholicism.
It's the great and abominable church in the Book of Mormon. We were
There you
always told it was the Catholic Church.
I mean, Protestants have had their fight. I mean, people were getting burned at the stake in Europe for, so I get it. Like, we've had our issues with the Catholics too. I totally, like, between the Protestants and the Mormon, like, we get it. Like, we've been there too. But yeah. So anyway, I'm kind of checking the chat here. Looks like a lot of people are supporting each other. That's awesome. Yeah, and so we thank you guys. We thank you guys for having an open mind, especially for the ex-Mormons. I just want to say, from my this is my opinion. I do believe in God. I do believe that there is a God, and I just want to tell you that there is a better life out there for you. You're not, especially I'm going to talk to the women specifically. You're not a slave. You're not made to be a slave. You are made to be cherished and loved by your partner just as you cherish and love your partner.
Absolutely. And
And
that is not the way it is in Mormonism. It's a hierarchy where the man presides over the woman and the family. So if you can, stand up for yourself.
yeah, stand up for yourself. There are men out there that will love you and cherish you. I've got a great man, and he does take the dominant role of paying all of our bills and all that kind of stuff. We do have a very traditional relationship that way, but he also like prioritizes me, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm not put on restraint or anything. Like, he's the reason why I can do this with you guys through Esoteric Atlanta. And so there are men out there that will love you and cherish you, and will see you as their partner and not their subordinate, and not just a baby maker, right? And so
Yep,
I just want to encourage you. And God, you don't have to work your ass off doing mindless labor just to be able to make it to heaven. Jesus said the kingdom of heaven or hell is inside of you. And so for a lot of people in these religions, Lorraine, they're already, why are you afraid of hell when you're already in it?
exactly.
Joseph Smith was a PDF file. Don't even get me started on Brigham Young. That man was the epitome of evil.
Mhm.
Full on. I don't even think there was any redeeming. At least Joseph Smith was hot.
Mm. I
Our
don't know if I fully agree with that, but yes, I will give you, he was better looking than Brigham Young.
updated portraits. Brigham Young, there's no redeeming qualities about that man. And we
Right.
didn't even get into, I want to maybe next week too, Lorene, if you want, we can get into the quorums. Just
Yeah.
wanted to touch on that. Would you want to do that next week? Like, let's get into the
Yeah.
politics of Mormonism
We can
because
do
we
that.
have quorums. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is so extra. Like, this is savage, like what they do. We got the chorus that sings, we got the preacher and then the assistant preacher, and then we got like the church ladies that arrange all the little potlucks. So yeah, I've heard that we don't actually know what he looks like. It's like Anne Boleyn, right? They just destroyed all her portraits, so we kind of have portraits that maybe show what she could have looked like. I think it's the same thing with Joseph Smith too. So yeah, the deception goes deeper than hell. Yeah, you are made to be free, to grow and to learn and to heal. Your salvation is in your hands. Not in some like sky daddy who lives on a planet, right?
Named Kolob.
That's
Yeah.
Kolob. Like that's an
No.
he's God. Don't you think you'd have a better name for a planet than Kolob? And the Jesus.
I'm wondering where he got that from. Joseph Smith got all of his ideas from other teaching somewhere else, so we
Let
just
us
have
know,
to find
guys,
out
where he got
where.
that from.
Yeah.
Henry, Jesus's portrait is Cesare Borgia. I love the Borgias, fascinate me too, and I've done a deep dive into that. Yeah, the Jesus painting is Cesare Borgia. The long Pantene Pro V hair with the blue eyes.
And the
Yeah,
white man.
the white man, exactly. Sky Daddy. Yeah, I mean, literally, the Mormons have a Sky Daddy.
Yeah.
Christians don't have
He's
a Sky Daddy. We have a consciousness. Mormons have a Sky Daddy.
and he's kind of an asshole.
So, and he's a super asshole, and he traffics women. So I
At
don't know if I
least
want to
three.
go. We didn't even get to more. Okay, Mormons also believe you could be a god one day, that you can have your own planet, which Christians do not. That would be total blasphemy to a heretical blasphemy to a Christian, that you could be
Yeah.
a god one day. Absolutely not. And I would say to upset you, Larene, like if I were a Mormon, like the idea of owning my own planet one day would push me away from the religion, because that's
Yeah.
a lot of toilets to clean and that's a lot of beds to make. And I just don't want to be responsible for that. Like I've always avoided buying a house just because I don't want to be responsible for that. So you really think I want my own planet?
Right. Who wants that? Only the men.
Only the men do, who have three or more wives to clean it up.
Yes.
So let me go through some of these. My stepdad is high clergy in Protestant church and sent me to Catholic high school. I am on a Christian these days. It's a lot. This is great. Source creator exists. We get to weed through the deception in order to know we already have. Yeah, exactly. You are not. Yeah, exactly. I knew what you meant. Yeah, it's all within us. It's not, stop
Mm.
reaching for things outside of yourself. There's no ritual you can do in a temple that's going to save you from yourself. It's going to save you from the darkness. It's all within you, right? And so for men and for women, that's what Jesus taught. We can get into mainstream Christian is more the teachings of Paul, which that freaking asshole, most of it, the New Testament is Paul's letters, right? So, and he didn't even know Jesus. But if we really break it down to what Jesus taught, and if you're a Christian, it comes from this. He came back and he created a new covenant. What was the new covenant? The two new rules were love your God with all your heart and love each other as I have loved you. That was it. That's what he said. That's it. Just those two. Just be cool, man.
Yeah.
That's basically what he said. He didn't say go into a temple and do these secret handshakes and put these aprons on and like slit your throat and like dunk in the water. He never said that. He said, love thy God with all thy heart and love each other as I have loved you. And even for people who are not Christian, those rules can be lived by, right?
Yep. Keep it simple, stupid.
I don't know what would be worse, having to manage a planet or just be perpetually pregnant.
Oh, right. Ugh.
I'll take outer darkness. It's fine.
Yeah.
I'll take outer darkness.
We'll have fun there.
We'll have so much fun there. Like, are you kidding me? Look at who's going to be with. Because even Hitler's been saved, right? According to Mormons.
Hmm. Yeah. I think a few people have done baptisms for the dead for him.
So we'll have so much fun in outer darkness. You, me, and the Mormon atheists. I'm sure you're going to be there too, Mormon atheists. We'll have so much fun in outer
Yes.
darkness. So, yeah, they make it complex to confuse and control. And that's what, if you guys have watched our Lou with the Confused Wanderer over on that channel, it's all very simple. It's so simple. And I think that confuses people, that it's just so simple. But why does it have to be complicated?
Because we're human and humans like to complicate things for some reason.
Yes, I'm there. We're gonna have the best music. We're not gonna have any popcorn popping on an apricot tree.
Mm-mm.
No. So join us in Outer Darkness, you guys. We're gonna be there and it's gonna be so fun. We're not gonna have to pop babies out eternally. We're not gonna have to manage a planet. Like, can you imagine how Karen that would be to have to manage a planet? Like, Jesus Christ. Like
That's
literally
awful.
Like, So anyway, well, we've even missed the whole part. Just a cliffhanger, guys. Jesus and Lucifer. Guess what, mainstream Christians? Guess what? They're brothers in Mormonism. We're not taught that in mainstream Christianity. We're not taught that at all. But in Mormonism, they're brothers. Weird, right? Super weird. So
I can't
anyway,
believe we didn't touch on that, but
we
yeah,
can touch
yeah,
on that. But we can touch on that next week too. So, guys, next week I think what I want to do with Larene, because I want to make this like a regular Saturday thing if Larene is good for this, like to do this week.
yeah,
And of course, if we're out of town or something, we can skip a week. But I want to go through quorums of the 12. There's more multiple quorums, right? And like what that means, and more of like how the inner workings of the Mormon corporation work.
yeah,
Yeah.
because it is a corporation.
Because it's fascinating. It's so fascinating.
It
So.
is.
All right, you guys. Well, we did 2 hours, Lorraine. Thank you so much for giving us your Saturday.
Yeah.
And all you guys, Mormon atheists, reach out to us, buddy. We will collab with you, and because we need a we need a what's one of my favorite quotes? Jesus saved me from your followers or something. So yeah, the Jehovah's Witnesses, actually we're going to be okay, so that remind thank you, Henry. So next week might be kind of weird. I'm not doing a whole lot of. I'm gonna do a show on Monday. Tuesday, I normally film with Hillis and Angie. I'm not gonna do it this week because I've got to figure. I might have to be on jury duty, and Atlanta is like super ghetto when it comes to jury duty. I'm not gonna know if I'm gonna be serving jury duty. I got a call Wednesday night, and if they have me come in, I might not even. I might just sit at the courthouse all day and then be released. So I don't really know like what this week's gonna look like and the week after. So, oh, thanks, the Mormon Atheist. Make sure you subscribe to Larene too, because we got to get her up there. And I'm gonna check your channel out as well. So if I don't have to after Thursday, if I don't have to sit on a jury, it's gonna be fine. We're gonna be back to normal. But knowing my luck, I'll probably get put on a jury, which is cool because I find them really interesting. I'm petty, so I'm super nosy. So like I want to know all the details. So it's all going to depend on if I'm serving jury duty or not. But with Jehovah's Witnesses, that is coming up. We're going through Fritz Springmeier's work from the 90s, and we're on the Kennedys right now. And we touched on Marilyn, or we're going to be touching on Marilyn Monroe next week. We did Jane Mansfield this past week. I was going to do a Monday mystery over them as well, but we're going to be talking about the fraud that's going on instead because that's a little bit more important right now. And then moving, we're going to get into that. We covered the Mormons with the Priory of Sion, with Brigham Young. If you missed all those episodes, there's some here on this channel, but most of the deep dives are on my Rumble channel because of censorship. So make sure you go there. But the Jehovah's Witnesses, I've gotten a lot of people asking about the Jehovah's Witnesses. That is coming. The Russell family is coming. Okay, we got to get through like the Lee family. There's some other families that come before it, but don't worry, we're totally going to hit on the JWs as well. So that is coming. Long story short, it's just going to be probably pushed back because of jury duty. So anyway, thank you so much. Yeah. Yeah, laughter is the best medicine. If you can't laugh at yourself and laugh, I mean, that demons and like think about narcissists. Narcissists can't, they don't know how to laugh. So nothing's going to drive these people crazier than us laughing at them.
Yep. I
So,
completely agree. It's so funny that you closed on that because that's what happened with Erica, right? She got so mad at that Drewski,
because he,
but Charlie would laugh when people made fun of him.
yes,
So look at
didn't
that difference right there.
a show on Charlie Kirk, and he literally watched it live and laughed at it himself.
Yes.
I mean that's people who are in the light that can actually laugh at themselves and laugh at stuff. So I oh thank you. Yeah, Atlanta's freaking ghetto. So hopefully I will say my attorney friend told me that because it's a Thursday, it's probably not going to be that big of a deal because like murder cases usually start on Monday. And frankly, I don't want to sit a murder case. I'd rather sit like a fraud case because that's where I don't want to talk. I don't want to see pictures of
Yeah.
bodies. I want to talk about petty stuff. So hopefully it's not going to. Hopefully, maybe I won't even have to go in. So if anything, it's probably going to be a short case. So anyway, Howard Hughes and the Mormons. We can touch on that if you want in an upcoming episode.
Yes. Oh,
So
yes.
yeah. So and actually, Fritz Springmeier talks about Howard Hughes a lot. So anyway,
Hmm.
he was definitely handled. He was handled. So.
Absolutely.
All right, you guys. Well, I'm gonna let Larene go and enjoy the rest of her with her beautiful non-Mormon family on a Saturday.
Thank you so much for having me. These conversations are so healing and just so great. I love getting this information out there. More people need to know.
And we got you, girl. We're here for you. We're Team Outer Darkness. So hashtag,
Yes.
we'll just hashtag it out on every video. We're Team Outer Darkness. We're right there with you. You are not. And if you are recovering from Mormonism or thinking about leaving, I think it's safe to say reach out to Larene. You have friends, you have people that will support you. And if you're leaving any religion, like we get it, we understand it's hard, and we thank you guys for being kind in the comment section and not abusive. Just because this stuff makes you uncomfortable doesn't mean it's wrong. So anyway, all right, you guys. Yes, and the Mormon atheist can't wait to check your channel out. And all right, you guys, we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.